I'm going to open my PHP MyAdmin. Before I open my PHP MyAdmin, I'll have to make sure my example. I'll have to make sure my exam is done. And then once my exam is on, I'll type in my browser localhost/php myadmin. That is, I'll type this in my browser. That would open my database management system so that I can get access to my database, which is going to be my SQL. I am going to first create a database in my MySQL. So I'll click on the home button. I'll click on SQL. As you can see at the top, I am in the server. Because the server is dwelling on my computer, the address of the server is 127.0.0.1. If I was not in the server, then it wouldn't show that. But I'm in the server now, so that is what I have. For me to create a database, we need to create a database called drag store. So I first of all have to type in the keyword create. After that, I have to type what I am creating, which is a database. And then I have to type the name of the database I want to create. And in this case, my database is called drag store. So after this, I will hit on the go button. And then if I have written my code correctly, I should be able to create a database. So remember the keyword create, the keyword database, and then the name of the database I want to create, which is drag store. Are there any questions for me? So I have no error, hence my database is created successfully. Now, after I've created the database, I want to go and use or go and create a table into this database. So the table I want to create in this database here is going to first be a database called customer. I'm going to create a customer database. Now, in creating the customer database, I would go on the side here. I can see that I have a database here called drugstore. Click on it. This tells me at the top here that I am in the server, and in the server, I am in the database called drugstore. I'll click on the SQL statement, the database called drugstore, so that I have the SQL statement to type here. Here, I will type create table, and then the table name is customers, and I'll bring my parentheses there, and I will terminate. Now, this here creates a table for you. But the table, you need to specify the attributes of the table. That means that in this bracket here, we want to put in there the various attributes or fields or columns that are going to make up my database. In my case, I'm going to have my first column being customer underscore ID. Remember, no spaces in anything. Now, it is not only for me to specify the name of the field, but I also have to specify the data type. So in this case, it's going to be int. Now, I've specified that my field is going to be an int, but there are also other characteristics in which it is going to have. For example, I want it to be auto increment. I want it to be or serve as my primary key. So in here, I've specified not just the characteristic items, but I've also specified the data type I want. And I've specified that that data type should be auto-increment. I've specified that this field here should be a primary key. The next thing I'm going to do is do the next one. You can see that when I'm going to the next one, I have a comma here that tells me that I am moving to the next one. The next one is going to be the customer's name. So I have customer underscore name here. And the name is going to be or value varchar. You've seen what varchar means. And remember, it's a mixture of characters and digits. And I want it to be of length 255. And I want it to be not null. That means that I always want it to be filled. So here I've created a varchar field. I also want to create a customer underscore contact. And I want the contact to also be varchar and not what? Now, I also want to add another thing, which is going to be registration underscore date. So I want to know the registration date of my customer. When did I register that customer? And that is going to be a timestamp, and I want it to have a default value of the current time. Okay, let me use yeah, that's fine. Let me use current what time so that I know when my customer was I know when my customers were created. Now, for the last one, you can see I don't bring a comma here, because if I bring a comma here, I get an error here because the computer is expecting another line for me to create. So I don't bring a comma there. What is the structure? The structure is I need to take the create word, the table, keyword, the name of my table, then I bring my parentheses, the parentheses end with a semicolon, then I bring the various fields I want with their data type first. So you can see that with each one, the next thing is the data type, and then the characteristics that follow that data type. So auto increment primary key, not now. It should have a default value, which is the current time. All of these defaults have been set. Now, if I have no errors and everything I've typed is correct, I hit the go button. And I expect that when I come and click on the structure of my database, I should see I have one table called customers. Look at the spelling in which I gave it. When I hit it here, I can see that my customers, I have no information in it as of current. And then when I go and click on structure, it tells me that I have customer ID, which has a key here. So it is a primary key. It is an integer. We have customer name, which is a varchar. We have customer contact, which is a varchar. We have registration date, which is a timestamp. And it is a current time that is there. So we could have done current date, then we'll have the current date, and so on and so forth. Are there any questions? Am I talking to myself? Can you people hear me?
Yes, sir.
So I've created one table. I have to create another table. So I'm going to create another table. I'm going to create a table called drag. So over here, I will go and click on my SQL statement. So here I'm clicking on SQL statement. And then I'll click on, it doesn't matter, but I'll just make sure I'm clicking on the database, click on the SQL statement. And then in here, I will type in the SQL statement I want to use to create the table called drag. So remember, I have to type the keyword create, the keyword table, the keyword what? Sorry, the keyword table, then the name of my table, which is drag. I bring my parentheses and I end it with my create space so that I can enter the various columns in the the table called drag. Now, I have code number. That is the name of the field. It is going to be a varchar. It is going to have a size of 50, and it is going to serve as my primary what key. You can see that because it is not an int, I didn't make it an auto increment. So we can have, I remember one of you asking these questions. Can you have a non-integer being your primary key? Of course. The only thing is that if you are using a non-integer as your primary key and it is not going to be auto increment, you are the one who is supposed to remember that that value is not an auto increment. Its size will not be automatically increased. Hence, you must enter only unique values over there, else you have a problem because the primary key's job is to uniquely identify a particular column and make sure that all the elements are functionally dependent on it. So if it is not unique, it cannot show proper functional dependency. Going on, I have item underscore name. So the item in the drugstore. And then here I'll have varchar to stay. I'll have not. Now over here, so that it is always going to be what? Filled. I'm going to do some more varchar, so let me copy this. Or the name, let me do it 255. Yeah. So here we have unit. There's also going to be a varchar. And then I have the NHIS underscore price. And that is going to be a decimal. Okay. Now, for the decimal, I'm going to specify some few things. First thing, I'm going to specify 10 column 2. This means that, and I'm going to say not now. So if I have, for example, if I have um, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That means that I'm going to have numbers which have 10 digits. So this thing here has 10 digits, right? And since it has 10 digits, over here behind the decimal point, it's going to have 2 digits behind the decimal point. So for me to have numbers in this range, that is why I say 10 and 2 here. That is, if I want this place to have 4 digits, then it means I have to change here to what? 4, and so on and so forth. If I have a number in which is going to have, let's say, 6 digits here, then it means that over here in the beginning, it's going to be 6 digits and then 4 like this. So you can specify the number of digits you want it to say. In my case, I want 10 digits in front, and then behind the decimal place, I want 2 decimal points over there. Then I want to add the co-payment, and I want this to be a decimal, and I want it to also be 10 to a not. Remember, since this is the last one, it means that this comma here does not come. Hence, I will not get an error over here. Look at the spelling. Look at the way I spell them. Look at how I write them. Look at the way I write. And then make sure you write yours like that if you have to create a particular database. Yes, Daniel. Sorry.
Okay, sir. So, please, my question is, with the characteristics, are they in order, or you can choose to, let's say for the code number, you can choose to bring primary key first before the varchar.
Oh no, make sure you bring them in the order you want them to. Hello, Daniel.
Yes, sir.
Make sure you bring it in the order you want it to display. Is that okay?
Yeah. So I mean,
are you asking me if the primary key should always come first?
no, I mean, with the arrangement where the characteristics, let's say with the code numbers, you see, you have the varchar first. You specify the varchar first before the primary key. So I'm asking if you can choose to bring the primary key before you can
Oh
type
no,
the
you can't do
primary
that.
key before the varchar.
You can't do that. You see that when I was
It's in an
talking,
order.
and yes, when I was talking first, I told you that I'll bring the name of my column. So this, for example, this code number here is the name of my column. Are we okay? And then I'll bring the data type and then the size of the data type. So this primary key, not now, default, all of those things, they are acting on the data type, not the name. So if the data type comes after it, there's a problem. Do you understand what I'm saying?
So yes, sir.
So the data type has to come first, and then the attributes you want to assign so that comes first. Is that okay? So in this scenario here, I have finished what I have to do. So I'll just go and click on it. If I have no problems, when I go back to structure, I'll see that I have how many tables? I have customers and drag. When I click on this, I'll see that I have the fields over here. And when I click on structure, I can see all my structure over here. Can we all see that?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to create my next table. So I'm going to click on the database. I'm going to click on SQL. In here, I'm going to type my keyword create again. And then I'm going to type table. And then I'm going to type transactions. And then I'll bring my parentheses, and then I'll create a space and type. So I'll have transaction ID, transaction underscore ID, which is going to be an integer, going to be an auto increment, and it's going to serve as the primary key of that what table. I'm going to have customers. I'm going to have customer underscore ID, and it is going to be an integer. Who can tell me why I have created the customer ID here? Why? I first of all created a customer table, and then I created a drugs table. Now I'm creating a transactions table, which will handle the transactions that the person does in the drugstore. Why am I creating a customer ID table in the transactions table? You can tell me. Yes, Daniel.
I think that the customer has a direct relationship with the transaction because the customer has to do the transaction. That's what you say maybe the brand.
Okay, that's good. Francis, what do you also think?
I say because customer already exists in the previous table, the customer ID allows it to be linked to the format table to make accessing queries very easy.
Very good. So keep what you just said, keep it in mind. So over here, I can now create the transaction date. So I know my transaction ID, and then I will know my transaction underscore date. And it is going to be a timestamp, time stamp. Please give me 1 second. Yeah, Frank. I'm so sorry about that. It was a work call. So over here is going to be a timestamp, right? Excuse me 1 second again. Okay. Just 1 second. I'm so sorry about that again. It was a work call, so I had to take it. Yes. So here I have a timestamp, and I want to make it default. And then it means I want to make it a current timestamp. Now, in the case whereby I don't add, over here, I'm adding current timestamp, okay? In the case whereby I just make it, the data type is time. You can see that all the things which are data types, they are green. So the data type is timestamp. In the case where I leave it like this, what does it mean? You can tell. In the case where I don't add this, and I just leave it like this, what does it mean?
Hello, sir. Because
Yeah.
it's a date, it will, yeah, wait, sir. It's a date. It will come by expert.
If I leave it like this,
Yeah, it's a
Peter,
date. It's a, yes, sir.
if I add this or if I leave it like this, which one?
If you add it like this and if you leave it like this, it will appear the same thing. Because since it is a date,
Both of them,
it will
no,
come by
both of them. Okay, let me reconstruct the question again. Both of them will give me a date. That aspect, let's remove that one. So if I add this, how would the date come? And if I remove this, how would the date come? That's what I mean. What happens if I leave that out? And what happens when I add this? What is the difference? Who can tell me? Jacob, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
So if I leave it blank, can you see my screen shared?
Yes,
Is my
sir.
screen shared?
Yes, yes, sir.
Is this still shared? Is the screen shared, yes or no?
Yes, sir. You can see your
Sure.
screen, sir.
So you see the SQL statement, right? Okay. So I'm saying that if I add default current date, it means that when when I enter a current date, or when I enter a transaction ID and a customer ID, automatically the date on the server would be loaded automatically. So the computer will pick the default date and assign. If I leave this thing open and I don't add this, it means that I will have to select the date. It wouldn't give me an automatic assigning of a date. So me adding a default means that the current date should be given to it every time it is being created. But the moment I don't bring default current date, it means that anytime it is being created, it will be upon me to enter the current date that I want. Is that point very clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
that's why I'm adding the default current date. So once everything is okay here again, I hit what? And we can see everything is what? Wow. Now, I shouldn't have hit go. I hadn't finished what I was doing. Let's go to um, I haven't finished what I'm doing. That's even good. I'll use this to show the SQL statement of how to delete a particular table. So if I want to delete a table, I will go and click on the SQL statement over here. Are we okay? And then I'll make sure my database is selected. Click on the SQL statement and type the keyword drop. And then I'm dropping a table, and the table is called transactions. So the moment I press go here, means that I am deleting that table. Remember that anything you do here, there's no undo. So the codes you are typing, the words you are typing, make sure you are typing the correct thing, because if you hit it and it does something, you can't go and click any undo. So that is how I'll delete a table. Now, after deleting the table, I will create the things in which I did previously. That is, I did create table, and my table is called transactions. And then in here, I'll have this. And then over here, I'll have this. Are we okay? And then you have this. Now, with this back, I'll bring a comma here, and I'm having to do something we have not done in the first two. What am I going to do? Francis said something very, 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 very wise. He said that the customer ID here allows us to join the information in the customers table, because the customer ID here is referencing the customer ID in the customers table. So in the customers table, we said that the customer ID here, that is, I'm talking about this place, right? We said that the customer ID here is a primary key, okay? And over here, the primary key of this table, we are saying is the transaction ID, okay? That means that the customer ID here is a foreign key. What does it mean? It means that if you are a primary key in your main table and you travel to another table, over there you are not primary. You are a key, but you are a foreign key. You are a sub key. Are we okay? So in here, I'm going to tell the computer that I am creating a foreign key. And the foreign key I am creating is on the customer underscore ID. So this customer ID here is referring to this one. Now, if this is a foreign key, what is it referencing to? What is it pointing to? What is this telling us to go and then see? It is referencing so it references the customers table. So the first word here is the table, because I can't go to the customer ID without going through the table customers. Remember how I spelled it? I didn't spell it customer. I added S, so there's customers. Let's look at the spelling over here. In here, the table is called what? Customers. Is that okay? So
Yes, sir.
back here, I can say I am referring the customers table. But when you get there, what am I actually pointing this customer's ID to? And here's what is important, very important. If I am creating a relationship, the data types of them have to be the same. The names can be different. For example, here, I could have said customer, and over here is customer ID. There's no problem with that. But if the data types don't match, it wouldn't be a correct way for me to pair them together. That is why over here, I chose integer, and over here, I'm choosing what? Integer. Hence, if I do a bracket here and tell the computer that go to the, I'm creating a foreign key with this here, and it is going to reference something in the customers table, also called customer what? Underscore ID. So it means that the computer will go to the customers table and go and look for customers ID and create a relationship between the two tables. And here is very important. I want to tell the computer that if anything happens to the customer, make that thing happen to the transactions table. How will I tell the computer that? That is, if I delete a customer, every place the customer is should also be what? Deleted. If I delete a transaction or I make a change with a transaction, every place I have made a change with the customer should also be what? Updated. That is, any update I do, wherever you are, the update should fly through and then match whatever update I have done. How do I do that? I do that by telling the computer that on the chance that I delete something, you should cascade. That is, you should go through, you should trickle down and do the same for everything else. On the chance that I do an update, you should what? Cascade. So me creating the relationship, I have to create a foreign key, put the key I want to create a foreign key with, and reference the table and the key I want to create it with in the other table. And I have to tell the computer that after creating it, if there is any deletion, cascade. And if there's any update to what? Cascade. In doing this, now I can hit the go button here And when I hit the go button over there, I've just created a relationship. Sorry, I've just first of all created a table called transactions. So when I come into the database called drugstore and I go to transactions, I can see that in there I have created a table called transactions very nicely. But again, in my database called drugstore, when I scoot over here, I'll see more. And when I click more, I'll see designer. And when I click on designer, I can see all the tables that I am creating over here. I can move them so that they don't touch each other. So let me move this one here to the top. Good. Okay. And I'm moving this one here to the side. Good. So I've moved them all out of the way. Okay. So you can see that over here, if you are very observant, in the customers table, right? In the customer table, you can see that there is a line joining this one and this one. That is the relationship. And what is the relationship on? When I come here and I click on this one, tells me that it is on customer ID and what? This one. You see, the relationship is on the two. So remember, I made you guys draw an entity relational diagram and all of those things. Here is the entity relational diagram. We can see it being drawn for you practically. This is what it means when I say do a relationship. So there's a relationship between the transaction table and the customers, whereby a customer here has an ID over here. There is a relationship. When I say that, this is me practically creating the relationship in the system. I'm not done. I'll go and click on SQL, and I have to create another table. And that table is going to be transaction details. That is, you create a table to hold your transactions. Then for any transaction we do during that transaction, we also have to keep note of. And we discussed this at length when we met on campus last week as to why that is done. So over here, to save time, this is the table called transaction details. In the table called transaction details, I have a column called transaction detail ID, which is going to be an auto increment and a primary key. Then I have the transaction ID. That is the ID of the transaction I am doing. Then I have the drug ID. So for every transaction, each drug you do will be tagged towards the ID of that. And then I have the quantity of items you bought, and I have the total amount of money you are being charged for that item in which you bought. And more importantly, we can see that I have created two foreign keys. So the first foreign key is here, then comma, the second foreign key is here. The first foreign key is on the transaction ID over here, and the transaction ID in the transactions table. The second one is on code number over here, and then the code number inside the what? Drag table. So if I hit the go button over here, just to make sure I have an error, so just to scroll up, here I said drugs. Over here we can see it is what? Drug. So it means the spelling here has to be removed. Please let us note that when I clicked it and there was an error, I didn't call Sir Mark or take a picture of it and say, Sir Mark, the code is not running. I figured out why my code is not running on my own. Did I call Sir Mark? No. So don't call me when you have an error. I didn't do it with you. Don't call me. Don't call me. You can see me, oh, you saw me. When I came here, I did what people say IT people don't do. I read and saw that, oh, there was a mistake, and there's a mistake with the transaction key of details. That means that the only place I'm doing that is over here. That means there's a mistake here. I narrowed down to, I knew where I was having the error. So when I'm done, I'll press go again. And everything is fine now. So you can see that I have customers table, drug table, transaction ID table. Again, when I go to the designer, I can see all my tables bundled up over here. And then we can see that the tables, there are relationships going through all of them, right? Here. And we can see that this is our table, or this is the look of our table. So the customer has a relationship with the transactions, then the transactions has a relationship with the transaction details, the drug has a relationship with this, and this is the relationship that is going to be done. So if I ask you, going forward, send me the entity relational diagram. I don't want you to draw. I want you to come here, open it, and send me this one, because this is the practical one. This is you building it. This is real world. This is me creating the relationship in the system. This is where I want you to go. It tells me the entity, tells me the various fields, their data types, and who is connected to who. That means that in the exam, I can give you this and tell you to write the SQL statement that will create these kind of tables and relationships. And I expect that you should be able to do it. For example, I would send you this and tell you to write the SQL statements that will create this. And I expect you to do exactly what I did that made me get this. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, I have to fill my tables. How will I fill my tables? So I'll come back out here and I'll start filling my tables. So how will I fill my tables? I'll click on the customers table. It really doesn't matter, but I'll just click on it. And in here, I'll type the keyword insert. Insert. So let's think of this logically. If I come and I tell you to insert, you would ask me, insert into what? So the next word is into. Now, because we are dealing with tables here, the question is, what table are you inserting into? So I want to insert into the customers table. The next one, what specific fields are you inserting to? Because if I look at the customer table, it has how many fields? 1, 2, 3. This one is automatic because it's auto increment. This one is automatic because I said every time, give me the default timestamp. That means that I don't have to enter 1 and 2. I only have to enter the name and the contact. So over here, I'm going to say customer name, comma, customer contact, and close it. So it knows that you are entering into the field customer name and the field customer contact. Now, what values are you entering into those things? Into bracket. I am entering number 1, the name of the person, which is John Doe, comma, and then the contact of the person, which is, let's say, 0044001. I'm done with this person. So this will allow me to enter 1 person. So if I go and I click on go here, what happens? It tells me it entered a person into my row. I click on browse. What am I expecting to see? Customer ID 1, because we said auto increment. So it has automatically added 1 person for me. Over here, we said the customer name, the customer's phone number, and we said that the current time and date should be fetched. So you can see that the computer is putting in the current time and date of my server. Very important. Computer. So the date and time of the server at the time of load will be picked and put over here. With that in mind, this allows me to do 1 person. How will I do than 1? How will I do 10, 40, 100, 1,000? How will I enter more than one person? Again, I will type the keywords. So remember the keywords. We said insert into, right? We insert into, then that, and values. Okay. Now, what am I inserting? Let's say I'm inserting the name James Smith. Now, I'll bring a comma here and bring the next person. Let's say Alex Johnson. I'll bring a comma here and bring the next person. Table. So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. Then at the end, if this is where I want to stop, I'll bring a semicolon. And then I'll hit what? Go. So it will load how many records for me? 3. And when I come here and click on browse, I can see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, including the first person, and each date and time has been put here for me automatically. Right? Are we clear on this?
Yes, sir.
Now, I want
Yes,
to
sir.
put in additional people. So over here, I'll come and click on the SQL again. I'll write my statement again. And now I'll come and put the people I want to put in there. Over here. Each one separated with a what? A comma. The last one will have a semicolon. The statements, we have a single quote, a comma, and a single quote to distinguish between the 2 columns I want to put in there. When I am done, I'll press go. So now I have inserted into my table all of these people. Wonderful. I'm going to insert people into the drag table. How will I insert into the drag table? So I'll come and click on my SQL again. I'll type in the commands again. In this case, I want to insert into drag, code number, item name, unit, NHIS price, and co-payment. Now, remember, over here we said it is what? A varchar. It's not auto increment. Hence, I must enter. And because this is going to be my primary key, it means that the information I enter in the first column, they all have to be what? Unique. Very important. Now, once I am done, I'll go and click on what? Go. The same format. Everything is inserted. When I click on browse, I can see that I'm still in the customers table. So let me leave the customers table and go to the drag table. And then I can see that I have entered how many people? 20 people. I have the drugs, paracetamol, the tablets, the NHIS price, the co-price. I've entered all of them there beautifully. Beautifully. Next thing, I'm going to enter the transactions. So I'll go and click here. I will paste this. We can see that the transactions, I said the transaction ID is auto increment. Hence, I don't have to enter the transaction ID. We said that the date of the transaction is the current date time. I don't have to enter that. So that means the only thing I have to enter is the customers who have come to buy something from my shop. So you can see that here, I've listed the IDs of my customers. What happens if the ID I am typing here is not in the ID in the customer table? What happens? Over here, for example, if I come and I say comma, this, what is going to happen to my application? This person here obviously does not exist in the customer table here. You can see that we have customers from 1 to 20. We do not have a customer who is of this value. When I press go, what is going to happen per your knowledge, per the reason why we said this customer ID is linked to the information here. Remember, we said that if something is deleted, match it. If something is updated, match it. What will happen if I put someone who doesn't exist over there? Yes, who can tell me?
Hello.
Yeah, Francis.
Hello, Mr. Why?
Because I believe since the number or the ID, the customer ID does not exist in the customer ID table, there is no way the customer table. There is no way the system will allow you to continue. It will tell you no data found. I believe that's my suggestion, my guess to us.
Well, it will not say no data found, but it will not allow you. But I don't think it will say no data found, but it will not allow you because there is no match, there is no pair. You understand? So it means that every single person I type here must be a customer. So when I come here and I click on go again, everything goes perfectly. When I go and edit this and then I try and add the individual who was not there, okay? And I click on go, you can see that it tells me an error. Cannot add or update a child. A foreign key constraint has failed. That means that the person I'm trying to enter does not exist in the parents, that is the customer's table. So why are you trying to create a foreign key in the child when you don't have someone in the parent table? Are we clear on that? Can we all see that error?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It is very
Yes, sir.
important, especially in IT. Whatever we are doing in the class here, it doesn't really matter that much. You think it does, but it doesn't. So here is our playground. I show you the errors because once you see the error, you should know what will happen before you click a button. So when you are on your own and you are doing it and you get this error, read it. And the English there should tell you something based on the knowledge you have now. So if it is you are seeing this, then it means that what you are typing here, there is no customer with this ID. So it means if you want to use this ID, you have to go and create a customer with this ID before you can come and create it in the transactions table. And another good important thing of this is this. You realize that in your workplace, you see that somebody will have both names, or you are running a shop, and when you come, people have bought things plenty, but they don't match any customer. You know, like you own a shop and every day things are getting lost, but you have invoices for the things. Then you ask, which customer bought these things? Then they'll tell you, oh, well, people we buy no toy or koi. So if you implement this in your system, it means that for them to make a sale, they must use a customer they have registered. And if the customer is not registered, a sale cannot be made. Hence, you'll be able to know who is stealing your money. You know, it is very important that when you understand the way database runs, the way IT runs, the way systems are built, the way systems are constructed, and they are constructed to be safe, you realize that a lot of things in which go awry, like, for example, Ghana here, where we have problems with ghost names in payroll, it should never happen. Because technically, if I'm going to pay you, we should have a unique ID for you. That means that someone has sat down and created fake employees, entered them. And if the person is going to create those fake employees, who created them? Because when the employee is being created, you can match it to who created them and know who is doing all of these things. So sometimes when you sit back and you watch this whole ghost names and people stealing money and people stealing this and that, you realize that the culprit can easily be caught if some of these things are implemented very well. Anyway, we can see what happens if we do that. So I have entered transactions into the table. Now that I've entered transactions, I must enter transaction details. And the same holds for the transaction details. That is, I must make sure that when I'm creating the transaction details, I want the transaction ID So it means that the transaction ID should exist. The transaction details ID, that one said is auto-recruitment, so don't add it here. The code number, that means the drag code number must exist. The quantity and the total, you can type any quantity and total you want. So that when I press go here, since they match, I have no error. So I have filled all my tables. So when I click on customers, I can see I have customers there. When I click on drugs, I can see I have drugs there. When I click on transactions, I have transactions there. When I click on details, I have details over here. And if you are very observant, you realize that the foreign keys, they are underlined. So if I click here, the computer will take me to the particular parent that I am dealing with because there is a relationship between the two, because the relationship exists. So that is how I will insert information into my database using SQL. That is how I insert data. I can insert 1, I can insert 10, I can insert 10,000. That is how I will insert data into my database. Now that we know how to insert data into our database, how will I pick some piece of information from my database? For example, if I'm in the customers table over here, and I want to know who is customer 11, how will I know who customer 11 is? So I will go to my SQL, I'll clear everything that is there. And then in here, I'll tell the computer that I want to select a particular role. Now, if I type star here, it means I'm selecting all. All. So it means I'm selecting every single column I have in that particular table I want to select something. So select all from where? So the next word I bring is from. And I have to type in the table I want to select from. And the table is the what? The customers table. Now, I want to select everything from in the customers table. So if I press go, it means that the computer will show me every piece of data I have in the customers table. That is what I told you to do. That is what it has done. That is what it has achieved. That is the aim of the computer at this point. But I want to know a specific piece of information. I want to know who is customer 11. So over here, I'll hit this. I'll say where the customer ID is equal to 11. Now, I can type 11 like this because it is an integer. Hence, I don't have to put quotes. But if it was a varchar or a text or something, that means that the information there has to be in what? Quotes. That is like this. It can be like this for integers or not, it's fine. But if it's an integer, you can leave it there. Very important. So here, I can press what? Go. And what will it do? It will go and fetch for me the customer that is on 11 alone. So we use the select statement to query, to ask questions of our database. That is why we call it SQL. We are querying the database. We are asking the database for information. So in this case, again, I am asking the database that I want some piece of information. Give it to me. I want information from the customers table where a customer's ID is 11. And look, it gives me that information. I can ask you some more information. I can tell the computer that I want you to go to the customer name field and look for an item that is like, and the like has this structure. You have the quotes and the percentage sign, and you put in the middle of it what you are looking for. So in this case, I don't know the person's name. You know, like you come to the office and you're saying, oh, I have a problem with my ERP. I have a very big problem with the ERP, but I don't remember the lecturer's name. It starts with, let's say, Tom, or T something, is TU or TM. So here I can say that look for any customer name that is like AM. And if I hit go here, the computer will look through and see that the only customer that has AM in the name is Pamela Walker. Or I can say, look for any customer that has J in their name. And it can tell me that the number of customers that have J in their name is 1, 2, 3, 4. I can also tell the computer, like, look for any customer that has J in their name, and at the same time, the customer's contact is equal to, in double quotes, that. So it will look through the computer and look for a particular customer whose name is J and his contact is that. And you can see that there's a square there showing you what you are actually looking for, the parameters it is searching on. It is narrowing it up. So in this short time, we have learned how to use the blank statement, select staff from customers. We have used the where statement, and we have targeted using equal to or like. And remember, the like, it has to be a percentage sign around what you are looking for it to work. But in these scenarios, we can see that the data that is brought back to us contains everything. I don't want everything. Let's say the only thing I'm concerned about is the customer's number. So I'm going to tell the computer that look for any customer that has J in their name, or better still, that has M in their name. And over here, only show me the customer contact. So when I press go here, it means that at the bottom here, the only thing which will be shown here is the field name I specified over here, which is customer contact. And then in here, I can see their phone numbers. So for example, if the school says, contact all the students who are doing computer engineering and they are in level 300 evening, and send them a text message, I don't really need your name and stuff. I only need your numbers. So I can query the system, get your numbers, and send you people a text message that, hey, maybe we have a special class on this day. How will I use this piece of information? We can see that at the bottom here, I can select some items I want and click on export, or I can come and export everything from down here. So when I click export, I get a pop-up which comes here. It asks me, how do I want to export it? Oh, let's say I want to export it as a spreadsheet. I click on export. You can see that I have an Excel file created for me over here, which shows me all the phone numbers in which I just picked up from that. So we can query and ask for information. We can get information from the system. Are there any questions? Class rep, the class is 3 hours, so we're supposed to close at 8, right?
It's 2 hours, so close at 9.
Okay.
No, so yeah, it was supposed to be 8 p.m., but since we started at 7, if you
Yes,
want to
that's what
do
I'm
that
saying.
2 hours,
Can we close at 9, or are you guys tired?
Yeah.
Do you want us to close at 9, or we should just stop here and then continue next week?
Okay, let me leave it to the floor.
The floor, we are all here. Talk now or forever hold your peace.
You can continue, sir.
We hold our peace.
Hello, sir.
Yeah,
Please have a question.
yeah.
Sir, why is it that some of the keywords, if you try typing, the system doesn't even recommend or give you, for example, a VALCA on the SQL. If you try typing, I suggest the system should have just bring a drop down commands or a drop down keywords that concerns VALCA, but it's not showing.
You made me laugh. Yeah, okay. To be honest with you, to be very honest with you, I'm typing the thing with SQL because most of you, your VS Code and stuff do work. But remember that in the practical world or the practical sense, you will be typing your SQL statements in console if you are using a Linux server or something. So you'll be here like this. So you just type connect to database, enter, then it will connect, create so, enter, then it will create, do this and this and this, enter, then it will bring the information. So if you are looking for the computer to help you finish your typing and things, forget. It's better you start learning it now and knowing the command. But the SQL is not like the other programming languages that you have to suffer, or is it? I think this is easier.
Yes, sir.
I think this is easier because if you're doing Java or one of those things, def will be coming somewhere.
Very noisy.
So, how will I delete something in the database? So let's say I want to delete Pamela Walker. First of all, I need to know Pamela Walker's ID. Very important. If you want to make any deletion, you make the deletion using the primary key of the individual and the primary key only. Why do you think that is so? I'm asking you guys. Why don't I say delete where username is like J? Why don't I say that? But I want to use the primary key only to delete. You can tell me. Yes, Daniel.
Yeah, because of the uniqueness of the primary key pinpoint a particular record. It will
Yeah,
count.
Daniel Duo. Why Daniel plus 100? But I can't give it to you. So let me do it plus 5. Because if I give you plus 100, then of course you don't for write this down. So you plus 5. Daniel. Oh. Yeah. The primary key shows uniqueness. So if I don't use the primary key and I use something else, it may not be unique and it may delete someone who is not supposed to be there, who's not supposed to be deleted. So the primary key's uniqueness allows me to delete one thing and one thing only from my database. So if I want to delete Pamela, I need to tell the computer that, hey, Mr. Computer, I want to delete from the customers table where the customer's ID is equal to what? 18. I think Pamela was 18, right? No problem. Whoever who is 18, we are deleting that person. Right? Where the customer's ID is equal to what? 18. Remember, I'm typing 18 like this because it is an integer. In an integer, you don't have to bring the quotes. If you bring the quotes, it doesn't change anything, but you don't have to bring the quote. But if it was a varchar, I have to bring the quotes. Note, you students, if you don't say this, you remember, you said someone will just not bring it. Why didn't you bring it? Say, Mark didn't bring it, so me too, I won't bring. There's a reason why I didn't bring the quotes. You let me bring it before someone will not go and bring it to me and then when cause a problem. So if I go and hit go, the computer asks me, do you want to execute the delete? Remember, there is no undo. There is no undo. So the SQL statements you are typing, if it not typed correctly, that's it. So when I hit go, okay, I have successfully deleted record 18. So if I click on browse and I scroll down, I'll see that I have 17, no 18, 19, and what? 20. That is how I delete a record from my database. The delete keyword, the from keyword, the name of the table, and I'll add the where statement to pinpoint where I'll delete. I normally use the primary key, or most definitely I'll use the primary key unless I have a particular query that can segregate a particular group of people. I will always use the word primary key. Any questions?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Please, I do have a question. My question is, with this SQL, is it language based? I mean, let's assume someone is French or he speaks French. Does the SQL has its own data types or has its own language in French aside the English? For example, delete.
What is French for delete?
I don't know about the question. The reason I'm
Are you
asking
people
this
did
is
French? You didn't see people do French for one semester.
that's foundational French. So it's the functional French is basic French.
But is
So
it knowing how to delete something functional? or I skip. Hey,
well, so it'd be like say, I assume the person is a Frenchman or he speaks French. Is there any way? Is there any way it will be given a different keywords to work on such SQL, or it's only English?
I did my master's degree in China, and there was something the Chinese students said to me once, in which I didn't think of till that point. And he told me that I was complaining about my thesis, that it is very hard, tired. And he said, I don't have it hard because the papers people write for you to, because my supervisor will tell you that every morning you have to read at least 10 papers. So when you wake up in the morning, note that a paper is like 10 to 20 pages. You have to read 10 of them before you come and see him in the morning at 7 o'clock and tell him about it. So for him to write his paper, he has to first translate the paper that is in English into Chinese for him to read and understand. And when he is done understanding that paper, he needs to translate it to English so that he can give it to the people who mark for them to understand. And he cannot speak English well. I did not complain about my project work being hard. Database programming languages, there's no French version, English version, or whatever. Luckily for you, the people who wrote these coding languages are English speaking, hence they wrote it in English. So there is no French version of SQL. The French people and all of those people are writing the same SQL which you are writing. That understood.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, hello, sir.
Yeah, Peter.
Good. Oh, I wish to go over again. Can they send the recording for us?
Okay. I'll send the report. Am I record? Okay, I think I'm recording. So I'll send it. Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Daniel, your hand is still up. Do you have the question again?
No, sir. No, sir.
So we know how to select, we know how to reset, we know how to delete. Now we must learn how to update. How will I change someone's information? So over here, I have back to the SQL. I will type in update. So the update keyword. Okay. So I have the update keyword. So after me typing the update keyword, I need to ask myself, what table am I going to do the update on? I'm going to do the update on the customers table. Note, if you have to do the update on the drag table, it means here would be what? Drag. Are we okay? So here we have, I'm doing the update on the customers table. And what am I changing? So what am I setting? You can see that it's like English, isn't it? It makes sense in that way. A lot of people, when they are learning how to code, they learn it rigidly. It's a language, so you must learn how to speak that language. So I'm updating from the customers table, and I want to change. So I want to set. And what do you want to set? Let's say you want to set the customer's name to, let's say, Daniel Asari. Okay, so I want to change the customer's name to Daniel Asari. Let's say I want to change the phone number to, then it means I have to bring a comma and tell the computer that I want to also change the customer contact of the person to be equal to, let's say 024, da 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 da. Okay. Now, the question is, at what point is the computer going to make these changes? At what point? That is where the keyword comes again, where the customer's ID, the primary key comes again, is equal to, let's say, 5. That means that who 5 is, go and take his name, change it to what I've typed here, go and check the number, change it to what I've typed here. And when I hit go, I have been successful. When I go to browse and I go to number 5, I expect to see who there, Daniel Asari, and I expect to see what number there, this number there. So that is how I will do an update with SQL statements. There is something else we have to learn today, and that has to do with combining tables. Let's say I want to fetch information that is in 2 tables. What does that mean? Okay, so I want to fetch information from, let's give an example. Let's say I want to, right.
Hello, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, please, my question is, what if you want to add, a customer to a table, and you don't know the customer's ID? Do you have to add a customer ID, or it will automatically update? Like for Daniel, when you update, you add the ID to the file. So
Oh, do you want to add a customer or update a customer? Which one?
I want to add.
If you want to add, then you're not using update, you're using insert. If you want to change the details, then you are doing update.
Okay.
So if I want to insert, like how we did, I want to insert. So I'll just type insert into customers into bracket what I want to insert. But if I'm doing update, it means that you are already there. So I have to know who I am going to update. For example, when you change your password, they will ask you, enter your previous password. The only reason why they are doing that is to confirm if it is you. So they'll go into the system, you select to confirm if it is you. Then once they know it is you, they will pick your ID and go to the place that has that password and change. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
So in here, remember we created some relationships, right? So I want to tell the computer to do something for me. I want to tell the computer that select from the customers table. Okay, so I'm selecting from the customers table. Now, what am I selecting from the customers table? I want you to go and select, very importantly, the customers. So I'm going to write an SQL statement here. And this is what we'll be doing next week. This week, the objectives was for us to learn creating the database, creating the tables, learning how to do insert, learning how to do select, learning how to do delete, learning how to do update. That is learning how to do CRUD, create, replace, update, delete, learning how to do that. We've learned how to do this. Next week, we are going to learn how to do complex searches, complex fetching, complex advanced searches. How will I pick information from two tables? So I'm going to give an example here. We'll do it more next week, but just to get you started off from next week. Here, I want to go to the customers table, and I'm going to refer to the customers table as C. So over here means that wherever I see C, I'm referring to the customers table. So when I say C dot, you can see that when I say dot, it shows me the things which are in customers table. So I want the name, comma, C dot. I want the contact. Okay. Now, I want you to select from the customers table, and I want you to inner join. So I'm joining another table to this. So inner join transactions. So I'm joining the transaction table to the customer table. And how am I joining the two tables? I am joining them on where C dot and the transactions, I'm going to call it T. Are we okay? So wherever I see T, I'm talking about transactions. So C dot, 1 second. Good. So where C dot customer ID is equal to T dot transaction ID. So right here, I have managed to join together the customer table and the transaction table. So it means that over here, I can tell the computer that I want you to go and pick for me the transaction ID, so T dot ID, and I want you to pick T dot what? Date. So the date in which the transaction occurred. So all of these will be separated with a comma over here. Are we okay? And what do I want you to go and pick for me? I also want you to go and inner join. So I'm going to inner join again. over here, I want to make this come in the same line. But this command. Good. So I'm going to inner join the transaction inner join the transaction details table, in which I'm going to call TD on where small t dot transaction ID is equal to TD dot transaction ID. So I have just joined the transactions table. I'm going to also join the drug. So over here, I have transactions details. I have and drag. I'm going to call it space D. So inner join that on where transaction D. One sec. Over here, I'm going to call it D. So where D dot code is equal to TD dot code. So now I have joined all four tables together so that when I make a search, I am drawing from all the four tables. Now, what do I want to do over here? I want the transactions ID and date. I also want to know I want to know the TD dot code number, comma, TD dot quantity, comma, TD dot total, comma, and then I want to know the D dot item name, comma, D dot unit, comma, and then D dot NHIS price, comma, and I have D dot copay. Good. So I have all of these things here. Just copy it so that nothing happens to my code. And now when I hit go, I expect to see information drawn from all of these tables. So I can see what customer bought what item using what transaction ID. I can see that this guy, he bought items with this transaction ID, but when he came, how many drugs did he buy? He bought 2 drugs. Can we see that? And then what did he buy? He bought paracetamol and ibuprofen. He bought a total of 2 items. And then over here, the price of it in NHIS is this and then that. We can see all the transactions which went on. So here we have 2, all Sam Smith. So we can see that one person did this transaction. We can see John also did 2 transactions, so on and so forth. We can see all the items and transactions they did. We can see the items they bought when they did their transactions. You can see the units and the capsules and everything. I can use that to query things. I can even tell the computer that, okay, I want to know all of that information where the C.ID is equal to 1. So I only want to know how much things customer number 1 has bought because I want to do bonus. So I want to know if how many times has customer 1 come here so that I can give him a bonus. I can do that. So for customer 1, he has come here only once because he did 1 transaction ID. If he has come here twice, then the transaction IDs will be more than 1. And when he came, he bought only 2 items. So he doesn't qualify for my bonus. Powerful things like that. So next week when we come, we would use our first few minutes for you guys to build a database from scratch using SQL, fill the database, and once you fill the database, I would give you queries for you to write, and then we'll see how we can use our database to make analysis using SQL inner join, joining two tables, outer join, and so on. So, because there's inner join, there's outer join, there's left join, there's right join. How can we make proper searches and analysis of data from our database? Are there any questions? If there are no questions, I thank you so much for coming. Your midsem is coming very soon. I implore all of you to go and make sure your module is working, because your midsem will be on the module platform. Don't let me send the questions and you tell me it is not working. Make sure it is working before I send whatever questions I need to send. I'll send you the video as always. Sir. Yes.
Yes, sir. Please, I'm a retake student.
But when you go, they'll do the module for you. Not a big deal. Why they said retake no module for you.
Okay, sir.
And you have to, by the way, come and see me so that you see what to do. Because if you're a retake student, I must
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that you don't fail again. So let me see you before the next class.
Okay.
Okay.
Right,
so are there any questions before we get out of here? I will send you the video. The PowerPoint I send you has all the SQL statements and everything in it. So you can see the theoretical side over there. But here is the practical side of me doing it. So you see how it works and what we do. Okay. If there are no questions, thank you for coming in this evening. We'll continue again next week.
Thank you, sir. Have a good night, sir.
Right. Thank you. We enjoy your class.